how are you today? This is Shamrondi. This video is for our Life Design Topics channel group. Welcome. I'm so happy that you were able to join me, and I hope that this group is going to be edifying to both men and women, but more so for women, and for us to be supported by the men that respect women, the men that know how important women are, the men that respect femininity, the men that understand what their roles should be in our lives, and in turn be a great role model per se, right? I don't want to say leader. Some of us might take offense to that. So, but definitely a good role model, right? Because we want our friends to be like amazing people. We want to know that we're connected with amazing people. To some degree, there is a connection on your own personal character based on who it is that you choose to hang out with and socialize with and all of that, right? So don't go throwing them all away. Don't go throwing them all out in the dustbin just yet. But let's focus on self. So this video is going to be about regret. Regret is something that I have a conversation with people all the time, of all ages. I personally love having this type of conversation with persons that are like elderly, people that are like not in the workforce anymore, that type of thing. And that's because when they're no longer in the workforce and they're no longer competing and in a state of competition and like actively, dating and trying to keep this woman for my man and all this crap, when they get out of all of that, even their circles change. The conversations that they have change when they, when they speak to loved ones and friends and people that they've been friends with for decades and things like that. But I particularly love to talk to elders about regret, to hear like, what is it that they regret? And it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's like terribly older than myself or not in my age group. They could be in my age group. I'm okay with that, because you can learn from everyone. I'm always in a state of like learning. So I want to say that regret is a terrible thing. If you can find a way to not be in a place of harboring a lot of regret, the better for you. Now, this is not to say that you're not going to regret things that happen, choices that you make in life, the way that you may have yelled at your child or how you spoke to your spouse. Try to make it right. Okay? Try to make it right. Try to get to a state of correcting it, fixing, remedying the problem. Also, to get in a place of forgiveness. Regret, in my opinion, is when you stop yourself from being great and yourself remembers. Like, yourself remembered, like, man, you should have did X, Y, and Z. There was an opportunity to be great, to feel great, to have a great friend, to do a great activity, to create a great memory. There was something that could have been engaged and done and participated in, and it wasn't. Or the lack of. It could have been, I regret not doing this. I regret, not saying, or I regret that I said something and I shouldn't have. It's like you have to get to a place where you are in a state of being introspective, right? Without being judgmental on yourself. Try to get to the origin of it. Like, what made me get to that place where I behaved in a way that I shouldn't have behaved in? Now, we could chalk it up and say maturity, the way we think when we're 20 is not the same way we think when we're 50, right? Totally, you could think that way. But usually, the regret doesn't just jump on you 30 years later. The regret happens at the time, soon after, the night after, the day after, the morning after, the day after, right? Like, regret comes fairly quickly. So in that moment, when you feel the regret, I'm going to charge you to take some time and reflect on your thoughts. Reflect on, Was that in my best interest? What made me feel that way? Like there's an actual process. There's an actual physical action that I am going to teach you about doing here in this group. And it's also going to be available for persons that I do one-on-one, coaching with and that type of thing. But it's really important for you to get to that place. So the low frills way, the non-esoteric way is going to be just basically for you to just itemize it. Like, okay, let's just say for an instance, the incident was you spoke to a stranger in a way that wasn't so nice, right? And you kept on going. Let's just say that's what the incident was. The regret is automatically going to come. It's going to come by. Let's say you were driving and it was somebody at the corner and then you drove off. 2 stops later, it's on your mind. The next stop, the next red light, it's going to be on your mind, okay? You have to ask yourself, first you got to acknowledge what you're feeling, right? Is it anger I'm feeling? Did I feel anxious? What triggered me? Right? Because something definitely was triggered. You're asking yourself a lot of questions. And when I say a lot, you're not asking yourself 2 questions. You may have to go down the rabbit hole. You may have to ask many questions. You're talking, several, 5, 7 questions. You may have to ask yourself some questions, a lot of questions. If you have gone through these types of self-improvement changes and self-improvement exercises, then you're going to know that at some point that you're going to have to go even further than those 3 or 4 or 5 questions that you're going to ask yourself. You're going to have to get to a place where you're thinking about if this had happened to me at a younger age or at an older age, what would be my response and why? Right? How would my mother respond to that? How would my cousin or somebody somebody that you think favorably about, how would they have handled that? The other thing too is culture has a lot to do with it. I'm not going to get into the depths of that today because that is so deep, right? Culture, religion, those things, tribalism, all those things, they get it is something that people usually write off, but they don't realize that it has a lot to do with what they're facing or how they have an answer to a concern, right? So regret is poison, right? Regret is poison if you do nothing positive with the regret. We cannot ignore a feeling happening. If regret happens, you really want to get to a place I have to use it for good, right? You have to transmute it in some way or another. You got to redirect that energy. You got to use it for something else. And if that means I will use it to mentor or advise someone that may not know as much as I do, or they haven't gone through this season of life yet, or they're younger than me, or they're a family member, a granddaughter, a niece, a friend. Use it for good, right? Regret doesn't necessarily have to say something wrong. Regret is poison if there's many things that can make it poison and toxic in your body. If you probably never talk about it, or if you don't find a way to expel it, you don't brain dump with it, you're not writing it down and doing some kind of practice, or some kind of practice. I'm going to use that word, practice. If you're not using some kind of practice to rid yourself of it or to heal yourself of it. So if you hold it in, you think about it all the time, you don't say anything about it. If you do all of it, it's present, right? And then you find yourself lashing out when you shouldn't. It just becomes poison. It just literally becomes a bile in your body, and you must be careful with that. Okay, it can welcome new stresses in your life. Regret can cause you to forget how to take care of yourself. It can cause you to forget or not remember or ignore your needs as a woman. Regret can put you in a place where you are not treated kindly in relationships and partnerships going forward. You know, it helps foster negative relationships when you like exist in regret all the time. Let me tell you firsthand. I know that for sure. I know that, and when I used to mentor young women, I would tell them this all the time, because I've had these conversations. I had these conversations with mature women that I know. I've had conversations with family members, older people, people that were my age, a little bit younger. And I just find it to just be more damaging when you do not get to the place of ever trying to forgive yourself. So regret is definitely something that's going to be mentioned when we do a talk about forgiveness. But just don't be hard on yourself. If you made a vile mistake and you think it's possible to at least give an apology, not so much expecting acceptance, but to be able to give the apology, to be able to identify those things, verbalize them. If you can get to that place of doing so, then you are steps ahead. You are on a great road. You're on a great trajectory to just improving who you are as a person, right? Just developing well. Your relationships have a more fair chance to be more successful and reciprocal and healthy. You know, when you exist in regret, it can cause you to make bad decisions in relationships that can affect everybody else around you, right? Regret can cause you to, aside from mistreating loved ones, right? That's never a good thing. Regret can cause you to mistreat yourself. Regret can cause you to harm your own temple. Regret can cause you to not be kind to yourself, for you to be rude to yourself, to not speak nicely to yourself, to not do your mirror work if you need to do your mirror work. Okay, we'll talk about mirror work another time. Forgiveness and mirror work. Okay. It can cause you to overeat. You know, it could cause you to use, I don't want to say drugs. It could cause you to abuse yourself, right? I don't want to say drugs because I feel as if like everything has its place. I'm not against marijuana and hemp use and things like that. But I am against definitely some of the environments we can be in when we choose to use them. Anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. But get to a place where you just are okay with yourself. Forgive yourself. Don't be so harsh on yourself. It's not something that can just happen in an hour. Sometimes it may take, if you're a person that you have your serenity, you have full clarity, you have space, you have your privacy. I'm telling you, this quarantine, it's like it's making a lot of people miserable, but that's just because their lives are miserable. Okay, but whatever. It's because they choose to be miserable. But this is a great time to be introspective. This is a great time to kind of really look at yourself. If you are a person that you are just constantly, you're one of these people, right? Because it's not only women, it's men too. It's like the phone is on the air all day long. You've spoken to 20 people. None of those things are generating any money. You're just talking, you're listening, and key, and all of this other kind of stuff. Is that healthy? That's not healthy. Like, you have to get to a place where you are really like okay with your space. You're okay with privacy. You're okay with quiet. You know, you have to get to that place. So regret is just such a dangerous thing if you do not give yourself space to do self-healing. Self-healing, time to yourself, privacy, those things are important. When you have them, utilize them. Here are some times where you have privacy to yourself. Trips to the bathroom, especially when you have a lot of small children, or you don't live by yourself, or you're cohabitating with people, or you have tons of people in your house, or you're in a roommate situation. I mean, if you're in a roommate situation and you have your own bedrooms, but utilize those opportunities when you're bathing. That's a great time to do some reflecting. That's a great time to cry tears that need to come out. That's a great time to tell yourself and talk to yourself very good. That's a great time to do affirmations. That I am absolutely doing a whole video. Maybe there might be a few videos. There will be affirmation sound bites that you'll be able to buy and things like that, right? But that's a great time to do those kind of practices. Those practices are edifying. Even if things just feel the same or come a week later, if you make it a habit to say positive things to yourself, like it is your duty to do so. Like, I am going to treat me good. You speak to yourself well. You start your day optimistic, right? It's like when you go into that place in the shower, while you're getting dressed, while you're moisturizing your skin, you're getting to that place like, okay, this is my alone time. This is me taking care of myself. This is what I can do for myself. When you pour into yourself, you're going to glow from the inside. Your children are going to reciprocate that glow. Okay, they're going to want to be in conversation with you. When you seem peaceful, that's when they're going to want to hug and kiss you. That's when, your man's going to want to, like, you have to put into yourself. When men are happy and contented, that's when women like to go and trouble them, right? They like to go and see what they're doing, what's occupying him, let me be all up in his space. We become magnetic when we are taking care of self and we're allowing our glow to come out. Where it radiates that we are participating in self-care. All right. So I hope this video is helpful to you. Feel free to reach out to me if you need one-on-one coaching or counseling, you have questions about things, you want to work a thought through. It can get quite comprehensive, right? But in the end, it is for you to have clarity. Men and women alike, it is for you to have clarity. All right. This is Shamrondi. Treat yourself good. Take care. And meet me in the light the next time.